Good morning, good day everyone, and welcome to our expert session, how Toad Valley Golf Course uses technology to efficiently manage the play experience and generate additional revenue. We are delighted to have a real life wizard with us, Allison George. Allison, welcome. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
Why are you a wizard of fun? Please enlighten us. And I think it's brilliant. It keeps people guessing.
Yes.
And also, please, won't you introduce your wonderful facility and where we would find it?
Perfect. So I am in Iowa, just outside of Des Moines, which is our capital city. And I am a third generation golf course owner and operator. And so I took over my family's operation when I was 26. And I did not want to introduce myself as a general manager. It seemed really stuffy and not my style. And so that's when I came up with the title. At the time, I just thought I was being funny. And it was a somewhat ironic name because not everything I do is actually fun. So anyway, that's kind of when it's your family, they don't make you actually have real titles. So that's and it's kind of, over the last 20 years, it's kind of taken on a life of its own. So now my daughter is now working on training her to be able to take over the golf course someday. And so she's, of course, told herself that she's the wizard in fun and training. So,
nice.
But yeah, so we're celebrating our 50th year this year. So
congrats. That is a great time to get a bit of limelight. I am the chief janitor in this operation, also known as chief everything officer. So I know exactly. But I think what's great about your job is that you create fun, right, for a lot of people.
Yes.
So how many rounds do you do more or less in a good season? And also tell us about the tadpoles, please.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So we're a pretty busy facility. We average a little over 200 rounds a day. We were even doing well pre-COVID. So now it's really crazy. Like on weekends, we start our tee times at 5:30 in the morning. And in June, we'll have tee times, booked all the way to 7:30 or later. So we do, a little over 300 rounds Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. So that accumulates, we're a shorter season to approximately 42 to 45,000 rounds a year. We also have 2 indoor simulators, which accounts for probably another 5,000 to 8,000 visitors over the course of the year. We also have a miniature golf course. So another 20,000+ people that come and play the miniature golf. We have an event center. And so lots of events. So like this last weekend, we had 3 open houses, a birthday party, and a golf outing going on. So it's always a zoo. And but fun. I kind of I'm one of those people that's kind of thrives on that chaos. So and then we also have a junior golf program. So I call it Tadpoles. And so we have a little over 100 kids that participate in each session. And we do tons of fun things for that as well. One of the things, the highlight for the kids is we have a watermelon eating contest. And then we also do an obstacle course. So they have to like run and fix a divot and fix a ball mark and, rake a fake sand trap and put the pin in the cup. So just kind of something fun. We try to keep the kids entertained and, make them all feel really welcome at our facility. So yeah, we are never bored.
No, it sounds brilliant. And I also know a few friends that I need to teach us fixing divots is actually fun. Okay, wonderful. And it really sounds like you're not afraid to try different things and push the boundaries a bit. Tommy, most of the golfers that come, are they within your community or are you sort of drivable to Des Moines?
Yeah, I would
sort of
say
golfer
most
comes
of
to?
our golfers come from a 20 to 30 mile radius around our facility. We're really fortunate where Iowans really like to play golf. It's always been that way. And it's kind of, I guess I'm fortunate because I do have a lot of competitors. We have about 30 golf courses within a 30, 50 mile radius of us. So, it's a pretty competitive market, but we also have a ton of golfers. So like every time we hosted the Solheim Cup, not Toad Valley, but Des Moines hosted the Solheim Cup a couple of years ago. And, every time we host any sort of thing like that, we always break a lot of records. So for attendance and whatnot. So yeah, so we're pretty fortunate in that. We have a lot of golfers. I guess there's not much else to do. Tip cows, I guess.
Okay, great. Fantastic. And yeah, it sounds like quite a relaxed sort of family atmosphere, kids welcome, and I think that goes a long way, especially also with younger players. Let's jump into it. So from our side, for those of you who don't know, Tag Marshal, we are a golf course optimization technology. Our mission is to make golf quicker and help operators provide the best possible player experience for their players. We are super grateful that we get to work with some of the very best, not only golf courses, but also operators. And that's why I'm delighted to have Allison on, because she's certainly super experienced. And we also get to work with some of the big organizations out there, like we're tech partners to what is now called the DP World Tour. We help the USGA and the RNA with research, and we are a national partner of the NGCOA. And Allison, that is an organization that you feel very strongly about and have been involved in for a while. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I serve on the board for NGCOA, and I'm very pleased. It seemed over the last 15 plus years that I've been involved, I've really seen it. Used to be where golf was kind of siloed out among the organizations. And I've really seen where there's a lot more collaborative effort. I also am on a committee that is helping to do the Make Golf Your Thing. And there's tons of great things happening there as well, because they're also pushing for, make golf your career. And I really like what they're doing. They're actually building an aggregate website where you'll be able to find not only, superintendents, counter staff, PGA pros, whatnot. So they're doing some really great things as well. Last week was National Golf Day. And so there was 5 different Iowans there. We went to the Washington, D.C. and did some, I guess, lobbying, if you will, but educating more than anything about things that affect golf. I would encourage, people, if they do not participate in that, it's really, really important. I think it's one of the most important things that we do as a golf industry. Because you have, representatives from, USGA, PGA Tour, and NGCOA, all of the, alphabet soup, if you will, is there coming together. So we always do a community project. This time we did some beautification. We laid some sod. It was kind of funny. I asked the organizers if we were going to have to do even more work next year, because they clearly underestimate how quickly golf operators know how to lay sod and plant. I mean, it's what we do for a living, right? So we were Washington, D.C. we turned 250 years old here in a couple of years. And so they have a ton of beautification projects going on. So a couple of years ago, we were in the National Mall. This time we were, it was the German American gardens. And it's kind of, you could see the White House from where we were, but it's just kind of surreal. It's a cool town. As a rule, I try to avoid politics, but, we're talking about some pretty important things, trying to change some tax code and, just kind of helping to educate people that golf is really important as an industry, because, we do more. We raise more money for charitable events than all the other professional sports combined. So just that alone, I think it's really powerful, a good message. So you got to be advocating for yourself, just like you do with your health. You got to do it from the business standpoint as well. So this is kind of I always tell people that although I do play golf, I've played golf since I was 3. I love the business of golf. And so the National Golf Day is kind of, training people that the business of golf is really about, it's really a small business. We're, like I said, we're family owned, and many of them are. And so it's just it's interesting because like when you start talking to your senators, they're immediately referencing, Augusta and, Sawgrass and things like that. And you're like, well, yeah, I mean, those are golf courses technically, but my golf course is, just an, average Joe, everyday, small business. And so it's kind of nice for them to kind of break that, what they would normally consider to be golf. So.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving off your time here and flying the flag. And I couldn't agree more with you with the, that those efforts go a long way. And interestingly, what you're saying is same for us, right? Like we're very proud of working with some of these amazing facilities, but the majority of our partners are just like Toad Valley, right? They're just good homegrown golf courses, and they're solving the same problems, right? And we've just been fortunate enough to grow this technology to help people like you do their job a little bit more easily, and also obviously the drive is forever to improve the play experience. And on that note, Allison, as an experienced operator and golfer since you were 3, if you had to pick 3 things out of this list of 7: course design, course conditioning, clubhouse amenities, pace and flow of play, playing partners in my group, accessibility, tee times availability, cost and value, which 3 do you think make the play experience and are the most important to players, if you had to pick 3 of them?
I would say course conditioning, pace of play, and probably cost value, just at least where I am located. I also have a strange experience in that I started managing a second golf course last year that was in really poor condition. And so it's been really interesting to watch the difference in expectations of that golf course versus my family's course. But I think I think pace of play is important, but this is not on your list, but I actually think that a friendly and welcoming atmosphere plays a bigger role than probably you realize, as far as where people choose to play, just from feedback I get from the golfers, when we're the boots on the ground.
No, fully agree with you. And that is something that you want to also carry out onto the golf course, right? Wherever possible. So I think, yeah, you are spot on with the course conditioning floating to the top. And I'm sure that you managing a golf course that is a little rough around the edges, that's a big project, right? And how do you uplift that without breaking the bank and making it sustainable? And then, interesting enough, the USGA research also shows that pace of and flow of play is top 3. In between that, people are saying, well, who's in my group? Don't pay me up with that strange single that's just walked into the clubhouse. But interestingly enough, you mentioned the NGCOA, their research, which I'm sure you partook in last year, showed that 84% of operators consider pace and flow of play very important. And it is because as much as we were blessed with a big inflow in golf during COVID, that's because people had more time, right? And there was less work, travel, more work from home, all of those things. But the pressures are coming back. The kids are back at weekend sports and so on. So for people to find time to play, and then that experience needs to stick, it needs to be good, is becoming more important again. So that's it. I think, and I don't know if you've seen this before, but Allison, your course was actually part of this research project that we helped the USGA with a few years ago. And I'm sure that you're familiar with Professor Christina Skunova, wonderful friend of ours from the University of Wisconsin, who's also involved with Erin Hills. So Allison, you were good enough to be one of, I think, 8 or so golf courses that they did some player tracking on, and they used our program for that. That's now 2018 or so, when we were in a very different world. But what they wanted to do is they wanted to measure the player experience and what are the things that matter, how many touch points are there. And what they found is that the bottom ranked experience factor is corrective pace of play actions. It really is not fun. So the person that dishes that out is the wizard of dread, not the wizard of fun. But ironically, other people's speed is as frustrating to players if it's not right. And at the top of the range, positive ranger etiquette and doing that well is something that people surprisingly rate really high. Did you ever get to see that research that the USGA was doing?
Mm-hmm.
You did?
I did, yeah. Yeah, so, and I work quite a bit with both of those, just kind of feedback and I view myself as representing just the average Joe daily fee golf course. And you are right. And, as the marshal role, if you will, is a next to impossible role to hire for, because if they want to be a marshal, it likely means that you are going to get a lot of really bad reviews. Because they're going to be rude. And having, my golf course kind of attracts a beginner golfer, and we do try to be welcoming, which that means that, not everyone is very good. And so that's why in some of our, and in fact, in all of our programs, we also have a ladies program that we do where we actually teach women how to play quickly, because you don't have to be a good golfer to play fast golf. So, and that's kind of a misnomer. And so we try to teach people how to do that, just some simple things like, putting your score down on the next tee box, taking, not taking any practice swings. It tends to be a new golfer, they take 10 practice swings, which, in the end are useless. And so, all those types of things are, what we, try and teach and help with all of that. And so it's one of the reasons why we were started to look into tag marshal. Well, my number one reason of why I wanted to get tag marshal is I actually had a golf cart stolen. As you know, right now, golf carts are a hot commodity. And so, I've spoken to several operators who have had a few golf carts stolen, which, this is the first time in 50 years, something absurd like that has ever happened. And so that was when I kind of started wanting to track, track it a little bit better. And then because the marshaling position, you have to hire retired people, because if they're young, then nobody pays attention to them. They just ignore their requests, even if they're done politely. And so then you have to get, seniors, and that was really difficult, because like anybody who had a couple of marshals where, it ended up, I was having more complaints about the marshal than I was about pace of play. And so it's just really, really hard to navigate all of that, especially in a golf course, that attracts beginner golfers. Sure. And so that's when I thought, well, I want to kind of pursue this route so that it's more of a gentle nudge. And at the very least, it shows people we are trying, where, before there's a perception that I don't care, which, isn't accurate. So that was kind of the where we started exploring tag marshal.
Okay. Yeah, I think you make some great points. The one is one that you made earlier, right? A welcoming environment and friendly staff. And that's what you want to carry out onto the golf course. So to have a grumpy old marshal really doesn't fit that picture. So how can you do that better? And this is where you probably find that data and information really helps people pay attention, because then it's not a case of opinions. But we want to talk a little bit of about the technology and how it's helping you and the team. And just to jump in here, so Allison, you have opted to put in what we call our two-way screen option, which has that golfer interface. And we also have a non-screen option. We also track walkers, but this is the one we want to talk to. And then obviously this unit sends information to the back end where you, the team, maybe a TV in your clubhouse can display the live map of what's happening. And then there's sort of this underpin of data. What's the runtime on each hole? How are we doing day by day as far as the pace is concerned? And are there any outliers that we can look to improve? Talking about that live map, sort of how is that helping your team from a line of sight point of view, and who's using the program at Toad Valley?
Yeah, so the team, we have a where we check in, we have 2 computers there because we were trying to do it on one, and I'm like, this is silly because we go to it more than I thought we would, honestly. And so we assign the golfers so that we know on tee times, who is where, so we can kind of be monitoring pace. And that helps us, like when they turn red like that, to know like maybe maybe they've decided to let someone play through. And so, just different things like that. Back to speaking about a marshal, you'll probably find this amusing that you want to know who the worst marshal is, and that is me. I have a really hard time being nice. Because usually when I get called to go and do something, it's, somebody is being really silly, like breaking up an 8-some, or, just, stuff you're just, you couldn't make it up if you tried.
Sure.
And so the nice part about Tag Marshal is this is just like a gentle, hey, can somebody police themselves with a request? So, you have that 2-way feature, which we use quite frequently. As I mentioned, we have tee times that are booked really late. And so it used to be that we would have people playing with their flashlights of their phone. We had a handful, that started bringing light up balls, and it was getting kind of ridiculous to have to chase them all in at night. And so now we use that 2-way feature, which is fantastic, so we can see who's out on the course, and we give them a 10-minute warning. So I find if you're managing people's expectations, they tend to behave how you want them to, so you let them make good choices. So if you see where they're grouped up together, like there's 4 carts playing a hole together, and you're getting complaints or whatever, before we send me out there to break them up, then we do a gentle nudge, because you can do that 2-way messaging, and just say, hey, friendly reminder, please, play as a foursome. So it's kind of like a weird, creepy, big brother watching, but we have found as a rule that tends to work better. We also, let people know about weather. And then we do a 10-minute warning, in the evenings, and say, hey, the sun reminder, the sun is set, carts are supposed to be in by, whatever, 8:30 or whatever the hour is. We always adjust it depending on when the sun sets. So, but all of those things are really nice. And now we're not having to drive out on the golf course. And the gentle nudge of the 2-way messaging works really, really well, as far as, kind of managing people's expectations and letting them make good decisions.
That's great. And I learned a genius trick that you may want to adopt the other day. An operator up in Wisconsin, what they do if they have a big outing, with an hour to go, they say, hey guys, dinner will be ready, or lunch will be ready in exactly 1 hour. Make sure that you
that's good. I like that.
And they use the same messaging, right? So we'll show everyone what those messages look like in just a minute. Just to quickly conclude on the live map. So one of the things that Tag Marshal does, and we're integrated with most of the tee sheets now. And Allison, you guys use Club Caddy, which is one of the Jonas businesses. We've become quite friendly with the guys at Club Caddy, a great bunch, and also the fact that they're operators that came up with their own solution probably gives it a bit more practical depth. So we're very excited that we're going to be integrated with them. And that, just to make things a bit even easier for you. But one of the things that obviously your team can see is, hey, there's a group number 40. You can't ignore it. It's big. Oh, wow, they're now 15, 20 minutes out of position. Do we need to catch them? You can see that they're really behind the group ahead. That's all visible. And also down here, there's a bit of a gap. And then you guys can make a decision, right? Do we have to go out? Are we going to nudge them on the screen? And we'll look at what that looks like just now. But it's probably helpful because I don't know if you even remember the past when you didn't have that line of sight, and you always have somebody out there trying to find the problems, and they're always at the wrong place at the wrong time. And the players then they push back and say, it's not us, it's the guys in front of us, right? So just having the information and being a bit more prepared is probably helpful. Okay, so this is what is called a track map. So basically every single round that gets played has a history where one, the pace gets noted, but also any geofence breaches. And then obviously we hope that the golf carts don't just drive off the course and you never see them again. So that's where the geofencing is helpful. We'll look at that now. Yeah, just from the players and the front end of it. So here's where this section at the bottom of our GPS, which is bright and the players normally really like it. It tells the players if they're on pace or not, and that changes color. And are you finding that this is helping the players sort of self-correct and have an awareness rather than just wandering off, not knowing if they're actually out of position or being a bit slow right now? Is that something
it's especially true for the new golfer. So yeah, that it is helpful for it's just a nice little gentle nudge.
Yeah, and in line with what you're saying, I think you made a good point. If people have information and if they know the expectations, they generally want to make the right decisions, right?
Yes.
So again, what we found is some golf courses are strategically moving the drinks carts away from the groups that are not compliant. So if they want to get another beer, they need to catch up on pace. One of the things that you mentioned you're doing a lot of, and obviously that's great because it's obviously repeat business and you're really building a community, is golf outings. And you mentioned your daughter's helping, and that seems to be sort of her game. How are you finding Golf Genius and the fact that your players can now do live scoring? Is that something that they enjoy?
Yeah, so we do live scoring where it's all integrated with Golf Genius, and so we just assign the tags to the either the tee time or hole number in this case of a shotgun, or tee time. So we actually use it for both our scoring of our leagues as well as our golf outings. And so it is so much easier for leagues. For years we have just been doing a paper scorecard, and then we would have to input all of that data, and we have almost 200 people in our men's league, and so it was really cumbersome. And so having all of that integrated, so now it just shows up in Golf Genius, it makes the scoring go a lot faster.
Yeah, and Golf Genius are really good at that, right? And they've obviously built a tool really with a million different play formats. Everything's built in. So for us, it's great to just plug into it and make it available to the players and also to managers. So we spoke about some of the player communication and the geofencing. So just because obviously our guests on the webinar don't know what that looks like. So the way that the Tag Marshal does this is because, and this is again, according to research, players really don't like it if a card cuts out and if they don't know why, and then now they have to reverse back out and they're feeling patronized and they get angry. And I've read a really funny comment the other day when this was discussed on social media, and somebody said, well, we should just always drive backwards and it never cuts out, right? So the Tag Marshal geofence beeps at the players and it shows them an alert, and they will know if they're in an area, but much like the gentle nudge approach, it also doesn't cut the cart. So we're giving people a nice way to get out of wherever they're not supposed to be. And then obviously, because the display sort of is interactive, you can run ads on it. Is this something that's worked for you at Toad Valley? I'm sure that you've got many long-standing relationships with sponsors and corporate partners.
Yeah, so we are slowly, the Tag Marshal deal, I guess, is our most expensive sponsorship. And so we're slowly, people are catching on to it. This is, primarily our first year. So we actually have 5 different sponsorships. We're on track to bring in about 75,000 in advertising dollars this year. And we do it through, as I mentioned, we have indoor simulators. So I have TVs in the indoor simulator and I have them attached to Chromecast. And so those are just on a loop of a slideshow. And so that's like our basic package. And then we have the live leaderboards inside the golf course. So we're doing that through the Golf Genius, which is through the Tag Marshal. And so we have the live leaderboards posted, and you can also advertise on that. We also have advertising on our drink cart. So I just have like this cute little sticker with some of our fun drinks. So I do have to give a shout out to my daughter. So my daughter is one of our best drink carts I'll probably ever hire. And she was like, Mom, I really need a drink that's called Better Golf Game, because every time I pull up and I'm like, hey, what can I get for you? They're always saying, I need a better golf game. And so we have these Barstool transfusion. It's a little can, and it's some sort of a purple drink. I don't know what it is, but you mix it with vodka, it's called transfusion technically, but we call it Better Golf Game. And so we have the Better Golf Game advertised along with our sponsorships on the drink card as well. And then the top package includes the Tag Marshal, because we're limiting that to 18 sponsorships. So, I would strongly encourage people, it's a great revenue source. I am kind of anti-advertising. I know that probably sounds crazy, but it used to be we had benches, we had advertising on our scorecards, and it just got to be where it was a bit much. It felt I don't know, it just didn't feel very classy. And so I think that the advertising in the Tag Marshal, as well as on, these TVs that we have, are a more less in your face and a more classy way to advertise. And so anyway, I would encourage, your users to give it a try. And I think you have a program that you even sell advertising for people if they do not want to do that. So anyway, yeah, no, it's a great revenue source. And we did it this year with our 50th year. So we're actually giving away $50,000 to 12 different charities to celebrate our 50th year in business. And so that was another kind of hook to be able to, sell this advertising, because people, we have tons of other events we're doing with our 50th year. We've got fireworks coming, and we have dueling pianos, and we had a big poker night. We use this casino. It was pretty cool. They had their own casino tables, and so we had this casino night, and we just got a bunch of other things that we're doing with the 50th. And so I would encourage people just to kind of think outside the box, and Tag Marshal becomes a part of the solution for being able to sell all of those types of things.
Yeah, that's great to hear that you're so successful. But again, a couple of years ago, all we had was paper, right? And here you can tell a bit more of a story, right, with an advert, and because you have these displays also around your simulator. So how the Tag Marshal works is that there's obviously geolocations on a golf course, and at certain times it will pop up a message, and it's interactive. And because the players are already looking at the screen to get their yardage and so on, it really adds nice value. And it's something that because you're out there for 4 hours to see a few supporters and sponsors that are probably familiar.
We just have it pop up in between holes. And you can have little baby videos, and it also makes a sound when it pops up too. So it kind of draws attention to it.
That's great. But I do think that you're sitting on an international bestseller with your Better Golf Game drink. And you need to give that more attention. Okay, wonderful. Then, one of the things that is sometimes a challenge is how do we get players off the course quickly, right, when there's bad weather coming in. So we have a weather alert that you can push out and making sure your players are safe. And then the pace alert is what Allison mentioned earlier, just a gentle nudge for people to remember that they have a responsibility towards everyone behind them, and it does work, right? Then lastly, data and continuous improvement, because you don't get better if you do not benchmark yourselves, and you're obviously doing this in many facets of your business. first and foremost, while your expenditure, you need to track and check your revenues. You want to continue improving, but then what about the experience that we're delivering? And just a quick look at some of the tag marshal data. So this is what we call our analytics hub. So this really digs into a period of play. So in this case, it's the month of April at Toad Valley. You can see the blue line here is the goal time that Alice and the team have defined. You can also see that it's not always the same. Some days you're allocating a bit more time. Maybe it's a big outing. And sometimes you want, some days you want things to work a bit quicker. You've got your runtime per hole. And then we've got a breakdown of what percentage of all of these almost 1,000 groups that we tracked came through on pace or quicker, and what percentage were held up. And it's really great to see that over 70% are on pace. That is the majority. And you did this entire month, give or take some bad weather days, maybe in 3 hours 40 versus the 4 hours and 3 minutes that you're trying to play against. So this is obviously, I don't know.
All those reds are probably a weekend.
Yeah. And like you said, you're doing an incredible amount of golf, right? But I do think that something that we mentioned earlier is, well, where do people want to play, right? They want to play where they feel welcome. They want to play where they know I can play here in 4 hours, in 3 hours 40. There's no bad surprises, and there's consistency around this. And I want to play with decent conditioning. And it seems like you're getting that right. And that's why you've got full tee sheets. Is this something that you think would be helpful to communicate to your player base, that this is your performance, if you will?
Yeah. Well, I like I said, I haven't haven't used. We were installed last year, so we've only it was like last September or so. And then we turned off the system in mid-October. So April, we just turned the system on again. And so my plan, you have a TV display that, you know, kind of brags on your current pace of play. And so just like if you're you know, you have to manage people's expectations. Sure. So as we're getting better at tracking this data, I do plan to project all of that in the clubhouse as well. You know, because I think people, you know, if they know that we're trying to help with pace of play, and that, you know, the expectation is, you know, it's that, you know, 3 hours, 40 minutes and not 4 hours. I know 20 minutes doesn't seem like a big deal, but it does if you're trying to, you know, get to a kid's soccer game. So anyway, that's kind of a cool feature that you have as well. And you know, we plan to use that moving forward.
Yeah, I think the key is, like you said, managing expectations, but also delivering on your promises consistently, right? And this is where you obviously now have the real-time line of sight. So if something happens out on the golf course, you can catch it quickly, because you can never get the time back. Once it escalates, it's impossible to untangle, and then the day is done, right? So this is where I think your team will obviously get better and better, but already you're starting strongly, and things are looking good.
I think what's interesting is as long as people are playing and not waiting, that is, the waiting is actually what's bad. And it's kind of, you know, this has really identified our bottleneck holes. And so, you know, we're trying to come up with, you know, how do we distract them to not know that they're stuck at a bottleneck hole? Because I've, for many years, you know, you would listen to, I would have thought that my pace of play was like 5 hours if I listened to the complaining that comes through the clubhouse. And, you know, now we can go in and see, oh, well, you know, the reason you thought you were actually waiting, you know, for 2 groups on number 7, but you actually still played in, you know, 3.5 hours. So it really wasn't that bad a pace of play, but in their mind, when they sat there on that group, on that one hole, that's what's really frustrating to golfers. And so, you know, we've been thinking about like ways that we can help with those different bottlenecks, you know, whether or not we put, you know, do we put some sort of a, you know, display out there that they're, you know, being distracted, or, you know, maybe on a busy day, that's the day that we go out and have like a, you know, the pro out there giving like a baby lesson on that hole, or just anything we can do to kind of help distract them mentally for those bottlenecking places.
Yeah, and you make some, again, you have got some great ideas here, but sometimes what you can do is you can make the previous hole a bit tougher, right? and from a setup point of view, so that you're buying time for that bottleneck. But yeah, we often find that the moment you have data, you can really focus in on it, and then you can change little things, and you can see, are we improving, yes or no? And like you said, does 20 minutes matter? Well, it does, because 20 minutes saved for 200 players on a day, that's many, many hours that they now have available. Also, again, to spend with you post-round, right? And if it's 40 minutes over, they don't have the time to spend with you. They have to run off and slam the trunk. So measuring that, and also the impact it has on the player experience and how people are rating your course, what they're saying afterwards. And very often, like you said, pace of play is such a sensitive topic. It's so subjective. It's so emotional. So the moment you have data, you can dispel it. It's just facts, and it's not perception anymore. So that is something that, yeah, we look forward to helping you dial in more as the season progresses with our customer success guys, and yeah, just so you can use it to good effect, and make things even better at Toad Valley. Yeah, that is really the wrap from our side. Thank you so much for your time. If there are any questions that you have for Allison, please shoot them through on our Q&A or on our chat. You're very welcome to. We'll try and answer the best we can. What else is, in the meantime, what else is on your calendar this year for your 50th? You mentioned fireworks. Is that a specific weekend event that you have?
Yeah,
planned?
so we turned 50 on August 6th. And so on the night before, we have a band and fireworks coming. And I'm hoping we're building a 10-bay top tracer facility it'll have heated bays. And so I'm hoping that will also be its grand opening weekend as well. To kind of, I've been tearing my hair out trying to get through all the red tape and weather delays and whatnot. So, but that should be a lot of fun as well. So, yeah.
So you're adding top tracer even. You will have people trying to sleep at the course soon. It's so amazing.
Yeah. Well, I believe that I'm in the business of selling memories, and when we put in our miniature golf course, my absolute favorite golf sound is listening to people laugh when they are spending time with their family. And so as I've watched Top Tracer kind of evolve in the last few years, I was like, we have to do that. So I know, my husband isn't a giant golf fan, but we do have a lot of fun when we go to Top Golf. So this is kind of my answer to that. And so we're looking forward to, completing that. But we do tons of weird. I always tell people I should probably do a seminar on all of the things I've tried that have failed, because I've done, there's plenty of those things as well, but
that's one way to do it, right? So with innovation, you have to also fail, and then realize, okay, that didn't go as planned. But I think as long as you're listening to the players, and you're there to catch their sentiment, and if it works, and if they're laughing more than swearing, then you're on the right track. One question that's come up here is superintendent setup versus pace of play, superintendent and geofencing. Is that something that your superintendent is starting to get interested in?
Yeah, so we've been analyzing it more, and so he can actually access it from his iPad, what's going on. So he actually has a tablet that he takes out on the course. We've got cell data on it, and so he can also see what's going on. And so we're working on kind of ironing out our geofencing. He's got several big projects right now, and so we've been kind of just watching traffic flow. It always used to be that we watched, there's the cart, where the carts are traveling to. But yeah, it's helping us make decisions. We've actually changed some nomos around, kind of watching where golfers actually travel. When I did that study back in 2018 with the USGA and Tag Marshal, one of the things that we were noticing is where you actually needed some cart paths, or like where people were going to the bathroom. Because you would see like tons of carts going into one little area, and you're like, what exactly is going on? And then you're like, oh, you know what, that they are going to the bathroom. And so what do you do to help manage that traffic there? So but yeah, no, our superintendent really appreciates, and we are busy enough that he's not usually on the course past maybe 10 in the morning, because you can't be out there anymore. So we actually we have headlights on almost everything. So
sure. So yeah, one of the on that note, one of the things that some of our partners do is they track the superintendent machinery, right? So that the super can see on the map where the approaching players, is there gaps in the field that my guys can get out and get things done. So with that line of sight, that's helpful. Okay, yeah, I'm not seeing any other questions, and so let's wrap it up nicely on pace as we wanted. Allison, thank you so much for your time and for sharing some of your ideas. I hope that you do get to trademarking the Better Golf Game drink. It'll be a worldwide hit, and yes, hoping to see you at some of the NGCOA events later on in the year. And all the best for your big anniversary.
Thank you.
And hoping that Top Tracer will get in on time, and maybe Joey or one of our team from the Atlanta office will come make a turn. That would be wonderful.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Allison. Thanks everyone for joining us and for checking in.